Hi, welcome back to Snacks and Stacks. My name is Cindy and I like to talk about books, TV, and movies. And yeah, today will be my April wrap-up. I am going to mostly just go more in depth about my favorite books, but I will kind of list all of the other books I've read and what I rated them. If you want more information about these ratings, you can find either my Instagram or my Goodreads, where I have like a whole write-up about them. So in April, I read 14 books and 1 manga, and I listened to 9.5 of them. One of the books I listened to and then just like read through the rest. I rated 1 5-star, 1 4.5 star, 4 4 stars, 1 3.75, 1 3.5, 4 3 stars, 1 2.5, and 1 2-star. Just to keep it short, I'm just going to talk about my favorites. So my honorable mention, my 3.5 star would be How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwang. This book follows Grant and Helen. Grant is a screenwriter, and he had a big part in a tragic accident with Helen's sister back when they were in high school. Now Helen is a best-selling author, and she has a series that is becoming a TV show, and she's asked to be in the writer's room. What she doesn't realize is that Grant is a screenwriter, and he's like second in command in this writing room as well. And so we have the two of them in a trauma meet instead of a meet cute, and how they proceed from there. So yeah, my review of this is basically that it is absolutely addicting like a car crash, but it didn't quite feed my romantic soul. I would say that the couple feels more like they are lustful and physically attracted to one another, and they're just trauma bonding versus like a sweet romantic love story. But it is a nice change from your typical rom-com. The next book that I want to talk about got a 3.75 star from me, and it's mostly because I really enjoy this series, and I think it would have gotten higher if I read them closer together. But it's Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. This is a novella in the Wayward Children series. I keep forgetting if this is number 4 or 5, so I keep saying that. So I will put the actual number here, but we go back to Eleanor's West School for Wayward Children to follow some of our old favorite characters, and they go on yet another quest. For those of you who are new to Wayward Children, this is a series about children, but not for children, and they find themselves not quite fitting into the world we live in, and they're able to find a door that leads them to another world that, for the most part, sometimes they feel like they fit better in. And for some reason or another, those doors have shown them back into our world instead. The doors that leads them to these worlds, the other world, instead of north, south, west, or east, they are actually governed by logic, nonsense, virtue, and wicked. So my review of this book is that I think it's great for those who have been following this series and these characters and enjoy going on repeat adventures. I'm not quite sure if it's just because I didn't read them as close together, but I found that this adventure was fun, but not anything new to the stories. Also, the one I read before I think was just so good that this one probably had a hard time meeting that expectation. So yeah. So now we're gonna go to the favorites of the month, which out of 15, we'll say, which I did like the manga. The manga, I should talk about it. I didn't write it down. Oh no. Okay, we'll talk about the manga real quick. I gave it 4 stars, and it's called Mangus of the Library. I think I'll probably do like a more in-depth review when I've read more of them, but the first book is really just about a long-eared kid who wants to read, but the local library doesn't allow people from the slums to go in and get books from there, and so he gets left out. And it's about these librarians called Kafnas who come into his little town to finds something and is trying to, and he becomes friends with them, and they kind of right or wrong. I guess that's all I can really say. I think the artwork is gorgeous. It's so detailed, and the story is nice because as a person who loves to read, loves books, and loves libraries, I think we're just gonna find that you relate to it. Okay, let's do Scythe. Scythe's by Neil Shusterman. I gave this a 4.5. This book is about in the close future where humankind has solved the problems of disease and death, and now we're ruled by the Thunderhead, a sentient AI-like being, and as a way to curb the population, the Scythedom was created. Now the Scythedom and the Thunderhead does not intertwine. They are two separate, like, government entities, if you may, and scythes are trained to glean or murder with compassion and without prejudice. And so these two teenagers who are least likely to want to become scythes are actually most qualified, and so they have been taken on to compete as apprentices. I think that this book has very intriguing world building, and it has really great characters. It definitely reads young, and the villain is definitely a little bit, you know, your mustache twirling villainous character, but I think it works. You will not find like a super gray villain in this. I found, at least not in the first book, but I think that's the only thing that really took away from the book so far for me. I highly anticipate the sequel. I'm actually just starting it right now, and so I recommend those who like to read young adult sci fantasy. The next book I want to talk about is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angelina Jolie. I think this book was so good. I also listened to the audiobook and do recommend that as well. It's catching my ring light. I'm just gonna put it down and put a picture up. So this book is about Donis, and Donis's grandma has warned her. Bad luck happens in threes. With her uncle's death, her grandmother in the hospital, Donis tries to avoid trouble by starting at a state college with her best friend instead of her initial plans of going out to like another college further away. And even with these precautions, a murder happens and she gets roped into the investigation. Since she's half Native American, she finds ways to help the FBI while also finding answers and trying to help her tribe on Sugar Island. This is a story of finding oneself as well as dealing with grief and uncovering secrets. I gave this 4 stars. I was very pleasantly surprised and distracted by all of the details in the book and life on Sugar Island. I really loved all the details we got of the Native Americans and the tribe and how they come together as a community. Some of the twists did surprise me because I was learning so much about this other culture and the people on the island. I also think this book did a great job talking about grief and also, like I said, learning about the tribe and their traditions. Next, I read The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And this was a buddy read with Chelsea from Libraries and Lattes. I actually also listened to this, which helped me get through it a lot faster. There are parts in here where there's like a Yorkshire accent, and it was a lot easier for me to listen and read it at the same time to understand what the words meant. This book is about Mary, a 10-year-old orphan sent from India to live with her uncle in Yorkshire, England. She finds a secret garden and tends to it with her friends Dickon and Collins. It gets a lot deeper than that, but that's the main plot. I gave this 4 stars. I thought that it was very sweet. I enjoyed reading about children finding friendship and working hard to play in the garden, but I did have to still criticize it a little bit for the tones of racism and possible toxic positivity. I think some of it is really great, especially for children, but as an adult reading it, I found some of it to be a little bit, and it is an older book, so maybe that's why it's got tones of racism, but it's also like wrong still, so yep. And then the next book I want to talk about before my battery dies is Between Two Moons by Aisha Abdel Gawad. We follow a Muslim American family celebrating Ramadan in Brooklyn, New York. Twin sisters Lena and Amira are graduating high school, and they've decided that this will be like the best summer ever before they go off into the real world. And they are making teenage choices. Some of them are way too adult for them, while suddenly their summer also changes and shifts because their brother is released from prison early. And that kind of puts a whole weird dynamic on this family. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed the writing. I thought it was a great character study of the trials of growing up in an immigrant family and just the strife of being a minority in America, especially a Muslim American. I think this book probably took place really close to after 9/11. And I also like looking at the balance for Muslim Americans in their religion and also just like being a girl in America. I think it was written really well, and these characters felt very real, and they're flawed, but in all the best ways. We have 2 more books, guys. My battery, can it make it? Can it make it? Let's try. Okay, so the next one is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This was so cute. I still think B.K. Borison is one of my favorite romance authors. This is about 12-year-old Maya who calls into a local radio station segment called Heartstrings, and it's hosted by Aiden Valentine. And she asks for dating advice for her mom, Lucy, and saying that Lucy is lonely. The show that's already having rating issues asks Lucy to join to try to bump up their ratings, and so she co-hosts and they find love, basically. Aiden is really jaded by love because of this job and because he just keeps hearing about complaints, and Lucy is like looking for the magic and love, and so the 2 of them have very different approaches, and yeah, I think that Lucy helps him believe in love again, basically. This was 4 stars for me. I think Lucy is totally lovable. I loved her. I think she was amazing. I loved her family. I loved her daughter, the baby's daddy, and their family. And her little found family is so cute. Aiden, on the other hand, I felt needed some therapy as soon as possible. I actually think I would have preferred it if they spent some time apart before they got back together, because I think Aiden really needed to work on himself a lot more. But I still love them. And my best for last, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Emily Henry is a hit or miss for me. But there was something about Book Lovers that I absolutely adored. So I'm going to tell you what it's about. Nora knows that she's not the sweet girl next door, and being so, she's been dumped many times by her city boyfriends who go travel somewhere and then decides to leave her for a woman in a usually smaller town with just like a more comfortable life. And it's always about, it's not about the money, babe. It's about living slow, ba-da-da. And so her sister and her decide to take a trip to this small town called Sunshine Falls in North Carolina because it's in one of her sister's favorite books. And Nora is a author's agent, so she loves books and knows all about these tropes. And while she's there, she runs into kind of her nemesis, someone that she's met before and gave like a bad impression. And he actually is from there and he lives there. And he is also a city guy who's stuck in a small town. And we kind of watch them work together. And yeah. It's hard not to spoil these romances because you know they end up together, right? But anyways, I think what's wonderful about this story and why I love the two of them was because the banter was witty. I love the way Nora and her sister talks to each other. I love the way Nora and him talks to each other. What is his name? I didn't write down his name. I don't have the book, sorry. But yeah, I love the way they talk to each other. I love the male character and his relationship with his parents. I loved that he loved his parents, and the reason why he was back in this small town he didn't really want to be back in was to help them in the bookstore. And yeah, I just love that these two characters had realistic reasons for why they were doing what they were doing. And I also love that Nora never like gave up her big city dreams just because all these people were saying, like, trying to convince her that the small town life is better. You know what I mean? So yeah, for me, as a person who like grew up in New York in her childhood and never really got that big city living, I was able to kind of live in her shoes for a while. I don't think it's quite for me, which is why, you know, I haven't done it, but it's always so much fun to read about. So yeah, that was my favorite book of the month. And I think just like a sidebar, I read Happy Place after this, and I don't know if it's because I loved Book Lovers so much that Happy Place just didn't quite live up, or if it just wasn't really my thing. But yes, Book Lovers is my favorite book of the month. I really want to purchase one. I hope I will find one used someday. But yeah. What did you guys read in April? What were your favorites? Leave them down below. And yeah, happy reading, happy snacking. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.